Welcome, everyone. We have another work review, this time with Kai, one of our members, our community members here within Designly Creative Kingdom. Kai, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Kai, and I'm a graphic designer.
Wonderful stuff. Today we're just going to be going over Kai's Behance. Per Kai's request, we're going to be focusing on the covers and the Soul Chicken. Soul Chicken, I was there while this was being developed, and it was fantastic. I love it. So I'd love to get to that point, but first we're going to start with the covers. It's just a better starting point, I think, just to kind of lead up into that. So without further ado, let's get started here. Yes. Okay. This one actually, all right. Let's start here, right? I think you had me review this one just a little bit within the server, but then you posted it over in Frostify's Court, and I think you actually won the showcase in that server, so you got a little bit of a bump and appreciation there, which is super, super awesome. Overall aesthetic here is really fantastic, really good grunge, really good texture associated with the image that's consistent across the board. That's usually one of my gripes is when somebody has a really good texture, right, and they don't keep it consistent across the board. But you've managed that here, and that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, the font is fantastic. The ways in which you're placing your elements. It reminds me of, what's his name? He has the expert role in the server, John Workosa. John does similar layout design. That's in John's words, maximalist, right? I can totally see you going from a maximalist point of view with pieces moving forward like this. There's a clear theme going on, a lot of compounded shapes, really fantastic use of color. Nothing is really like oversaturating over the other. There are a lot of dark elements, but I think that there's just a really good balance of combined highlights and lowlights and soft light, of course. Yeah, I mean, my only gripe, I suppose, is maybe this is just the way that Behance is kind of showing this off, is over here on the right, there is an empty space. This may be a good opportunity to actually throw this onto a mock-up of some kind, like a DVD, where you'd normally see that lip. But like even putting your a calligraphic signature somewhere over here to fill that space, not the entire space, but just like up here in this little corner area, have it nice and flat, or maybe over down here in the bottom. Just give it like that extra oomph that this is an existing area of the artboard that isn't just the texture, because it is slanted to the left a little bit. That's just my personal preference, though. I would put some type of calligraphy right here. And maybe that's just because John spoiled me with how he does his work. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason why this won in the showcase over in the Frostify Chord. So there's really awesome work. I want to see more from you that's like this. I can probably, I don't know if you know John, but he posts often in the Creative Corner forum. So I'll link you some of his work so that you can take a look at what I'm talking about when I'm comparing your piece to his. That being said, scrolling down, I believe I reviewed this a little bit before. I want to see a larger aspect of crystal and rose associated, because rose quartz, right? The word is great. However, I want to see more of the petals of the rose, either as a texture, a thin type of filled space here of some kind, and maybe some more geometric shapes that maybe that like the outline of a geometric pointed quartz crystal somewhere. Just really, from a visual standpoint, that would really solidify like why you've chosen rose quartz as there. Maybe that's a little bit too on the nose, but when we're thinking of kind of these design, it's kind of like a freelance design, right? Like it's still following rules, but it's coming from the heart, right? So that kind of just becomes like a kind of an up to you situation, like what this would be used for. But my particular critique, add some type of element that includes the outline of a quartz crystal, the outline of the rose petals, maybe as a texture, something of that regard. And then we have one of my favorite pieces from you. A lot of references here, very busy. Everything has a purpose, though. I'm not distracted by what's going on. It's muted. There's not one color that's overtaking the next. That's important, obviously. The moon over here in the bottom right corner, the moon, similar texture over here in the iris of the eye. I think the only thing that I would suggest is that the eye itself, the masking over here with the eye at the bottom, is it's got a level of softness to it that is a little uncomfortable. I would rather you just do like the hard, like 0.1 feathering rather than maybe like a couple pixels of feathering, just because it creates a little bit of like a inconsistency with the style, because everything is so crisp everywhere else, especially when it's right next to this wired like fishing line that has a very distinct and sharp silhouette, and then right next to it is this soft feathering, as well as the I'm forgetting the name of the feature. It's the desaturate to posterize. I think that's what it's called. It is very sharp, especially around this area where it's filling in details of like the highlight and the shadows. I'm curious what it would look like if the posterize wasn't as intense. But then again, this all could be fixed if the outside of the eye didn't have this soft feathering to it. So, yeah, honestly, my only suggestion, keep it crisp. Don't feather this, because the rest of the piece is very sharp edges, clear, distinct lines. Scrolling down to the Nike, I see these a lot. In my opinion, this is probably one of your on the weakest side of things, to put things lightly. It doesn't give me that wow factor that your other pieces give me. It's not letting me zoom in. Great. The shoe right here is really well photoshopped, but it seems to lose its quality when especially next to this similarly close image of the sole of the foot. And it's very crisp with these very sharp and detailed depictions of the underside of the shoe. The font choice. The font choice, it's safe. I'm not quite sure what the Gaussian blur here, or the rotational blur is for here. Nothing else is moving in the image itself, so it doesn't... It just seems out of place here. It's a lot of like dark gray, like these grays with these kind of muted blues. It doesn't help the white stand out. It almost kind of blends in. this particular area here, this looks fine to me. The Nike logo right here. There's like these little splotches on the outside of the circle. I'm not quite sure if those are intentional. I don't like that just because everything else is consistently a smooth shape. This light here in the top left is nice. And top right, it just looks like it's a vignette. Picture of the person with the shoes here. It is quite muted. My suggestion would be to allow this to pop a little bit. It's not pop. It blends in my eye, right? If I'm squinting, this goes away. The brightest thing in the image is this shoe here. This shoe is losing resolution and blending in with the background. And then this bottom left text is probably the least visible out of everything else here. So, not the most impressive out of all these other pieces. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you really wanted to stick to the branding of Nike rather than kind of following your own heart with what you did with these pieces. I don't like that. I don't like seeing you feel like you have to limit yourself. So, honestly, I would love to see you redo this piece, but don't worry so much about the branding. Just keep the logo involved in some way, but go crazy with it like what you've done here. Keep it organized, but kind of copy and paste your heart there, right? Because that's honestly what I think that is missing here is your heart. So we come down, Barrow. I haven't seen this piece yet, which is awesome. Really gritty textures, glitchy. How do I describe it? It's very as though I don't know, like I'm just thinking of like this is gonna sound so weird, like if a design had something that was palatable. I don't know if that makes sense. Like something that it looks like something I've tasted before. That's such a weird thing to say, but that's kind of the impression that I'm getting from it. Like all the texture to it feels like something that if I were to really feel it, it would be grainy. It would be in some parts smooth but bumpy. I like this, but it also gives me the impression of like a scratch it from like a lottery ticket. So not a bad thing. Another one of those pieces where you just kind of threw your heart at it. I can understand that this is a tree. At least I hope it is. That's what I'm getting right off the bat. But this is also part of one of those pieces where if you're wanting to follow certain design principles, that in itself can limit you. So, Overland. So I'm definitely getting, of course, like a album cover vibes, right? Overland, Kai, right? Signature. Foggy neighborhood, maybe before the break of dawn or as dusk is rolling through. This gives me a very kind of late 80s, early 90s type of photography and vibe. The bright lights, the muted blues in the background, things that kind of bleed as things come forward, things get darker. It's usually reminiscent of the older cameras. They would be very bright and the kind of further out, but as they came in, they kind of sucked in the color. So I can definitely see like an indie album of some kind. Kind of taking the reins here with this type of imagery. Not really any other critique other than I would just delete the paper texture altogether, keep the texture that's underneath it intact. And instead of that paper texture, I would rather you see I would rather see this on a mock-up that already has that kind of papery texture applied. That's where the most value will get from that. So, coming down, we have the cramps. Goo Goo Muck. Is that what that says?
Yeah.
Cool. Goo Goo Muck. Again, kind of one of those album cover-ish type of designs. I think it's coming off of on like the silly end of things, with an overall kind of serious face. Some of the brushing that you've done here is coming over into the text, and it's making it harder to read. So honestly, I would make the text a lot bigger, give it more highlights, maybe adding like some type of gradient overlay on it. That way it gives a little bit more variety, but that way it pops itself out from that background a bit, because the inside of it is black, right? Let's highlight on those colors a little bit. The image in the background is fine. Serious tones, dancing vibe. I don't know what that type of dress is called, or attire is called. I'm not the best when it comes to names of clothing, but maintain that, right? With a very serious, dark, muted undertone, but then have the text come forward and really accentuate the silliness of that font itself. The cramps, Goo Goo Muck. That sounds great. Make that text bigger. Really accentuate that. The weight of the seriousness of the image on top should also be matched with the silliness of the bottom, so that there's more of a conflicting nature of the media that maybe this album art or the media art or this play cover is talking about. Right. Soul Chicken. Okay. This was one of my... This particular project, not gonna lie, as well as this one right here, kind of put you on the map, for me at least, as someone to pay attention to. And it's not because you won the Frostify thing with this particular piece, but because that's just what I've happened to see. And anyway, we'll continue. Before I continue scrolling down, I really wanted to see how you've presented this. It's very important. So, welcome. I have finally started my journey as a graphic designer, and have started practicing logo design and business advertising. I hope this goes well, and thank you for all your support. Signed to you. Fantastic. Coming down, Soul Chicken, we're starting to see the iconography and the color scheme that you've chosen here. We have the colors that you've chosen as well. Starting going into the menu. This menu is made in Photoshop with original examples made by me. It took me an estimated 4 hours to make it look well planned and successful, to have good pricing. Put some thought into the pricing, stock images, right? Obviously, you're going to put a fake phone number, address goes here, website here, blah, blah, blah. The mock-ups associated, now this is my favorite part, is how you implemented these. So putting it on the apron itself, fantastic, right? Whether that was part of the mock-up or not, really good application, because people are going to come into this restaurant and see people wearing this. Right? This is something that matters to the restaurant owner to have. Coming down further down, we of course have the drinks. Home is where the heart is. The fry containers, the burger containers. And thanking us, your Discord, Twitter, and Instagram. Now that we've kind of reviewed that, critique time. As I said, I really wanted to pay attention to how you present this. Now, something that I absolutely want to make sure that is not said when presenting a design is how long it took you to design something. A client might be coming on here and say, oh, like, it took them 4 hours to do this. No thanks. Or they did this in that amount of time really quickly. I want them to spend more time on a project, right? Why do they only have short-lived projects, right? I want something that took them 12 hours. What does that look like, right? So I would leave out the estimations of how long it takes you to create something completely out of the picture. The balancing here, there's a really big gap in space here. And then yet the text is also really tight against the images that you've provided. Something to adjust. Looking at the colors. Love the colors. But you have not included the tan color here as part of the branding. It's not a strict white, and you've used this particular color a lot. What is the hex code for this? I also would love to have a little bit more dedicated space towards why you chose the colors you did. Why are they important? Red inspires hunger. I believe you wrote this stuff out. The red inspires the hunger. The blue brings in the trust, and a little bit more related to the origin of the country, as well as the highlighted color of this tan, showing importance as well, so that you can bring more contrast to the first two colors. You've said this before. I want this displayed on your Behance. When you show this to someone, this might be the only time you're able to actually explain to them your thought process. I want you to elaborate more into the choices that you made. Getting into the menu. I want to see this menu on a mock-up. I'm not quite sure how many mock-ups that currently exist regarding that. It might be worth looking, and this is something I do, by the way. If there's not a mock-up that I can find, I'll try to find an HD image of kind of the form that I'm wanting to grab, and then look up a tutorial on forming around similar looking shapes. I want to see this in action, right? If I am pitching this to a restaurant, don't make me try to imagine this in front of me on a menu. I want to see what it looks like on a mock-up. Bring that realism to me so I don't have to think about it. You might be able to do that yourself, but that's why we exist. We are designers that do the thinking for them. So overall, the way that this is laid out, it's great. The prices are right. Going into the drinks, I think this is slightly off-centered in comparison to the sides. Instead of the socials having color here, I would just make them white. White, the Twitter icon white, the Instagram logo, just the insides of it, the outlines. I would make that also white, make it larger. Maybe because we're living in a digital age in which people don't want to take steps, I would maybe, instead of doing like the socials here, maybe just include a QR code that would link to a link tree, right? Maybe just put the QR code. It doesn't need to be real, but just put a QR code here, and then underneath put follow our socials, right? The link tree will show like the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything that would be relevant for somebody. Everybody has that integration with their phone, right? Pull up the camera, hold your finger down, get linked there. Now I can follow them easily. Don't make somebody look up their social, like sign into Twitter, pull up the search bar, type your name in, maybe have a hard time finding you, right? Take them directly to your page. So shorten that time in which you can start building that type of rapport. Let's see. I swear I thought that you created a pattern of some kind. Yes, you did. It's just the chicken head itself, which is fine. The mock-ups, here are a few mock-ups that I decided to use in order to give this piece a little bit more life. Perfect. Let's take it another step forward. Why did you choose to put the mock-up on an apron? Why is that important to you?
I feel like whenever I enter a restaurant, it's important to see the branding on the staff because that promotes how, like, where they work in a way.
Exactly. I want what you just said on this Behance. I want to see that. There are not enough artists that elaborate into their thought process. You're already very good at this. I've seen you in the Discord writing out your thoughts about how you design things, and you just said it now. You're happy to elaborate. But we live in a very competitive environment, and you're not always going to get that chance to elaborate. So the one time that someone pulls up this project looking for an artist, just assume they're not going to ever talk with you and that your words should already be on the paper. Work studies are very important. I know that this is more of a passion project. It wasn't for a particular company. But pretending that it is goes such a long way. Right?
Yeah.
I also, again, I want to see the menu on a mock-up, but coming in here, love this branding down here. Jeez, I think another way to also elevate the Behance presentation of this is to include social posts. What does this, like, show off what this Instagram looks like? Maybe 2 posts. What does it look like? What does a post from Soul Chicken on Instagram look like? That kind of requires you to be a little bit creative, but I'm sure that, you know, if I go to, let's go, Pixabay, go to Asian cuisine. Woo! Really awesome HD images, right? We can easily, of course, with credit, grab some of these images that are relevant to the restaurant and implement them in a social post of some kind, right? Maybe Soul Chicken has some dim sum Chinese rolls, right? That have chicken in them. Bring that to life in that way, right? I know it's not, this particular restaurant isn't Chinese, I know that, but I just typed in a really generic post. But these types of resources exist, right? For us to kind of derive from and use them as kind of examples of, hey, look, I can not only do your logo, your branding, your colors, your menu, what some of the merch could look like, but this is also what your socials could look like too. And that goes a long way. We're in a digital age. Wear that. Right? I'm assuming you have the Pixabay resource, correct?
Actually, no.
Oh my goodness. I am sending you that now. Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much.
Pixabay is freaking amazing. They're all free too. So, you should never have to scrounge on Google Images ever again for stuff. Mock-ups are a different story, obviously. I actually I pull from Pixabay for my own composites. This heron is really cool looking. They also have B-roll. So if you ever enter that space, like just some B-roll, right? That on its own can go a long way in relation to social posts. Brand it up a little bit somehow. The weather outside is frightful, but our chicken isn't. Come eat some. Something stupid. But yeah, I mean, overall, this is one of my favorite projects from you. I really want to see more from you in regards to the kind of restaurant area. So many people focusing on like Fortnite thumbnails and gaming, esports stuff, and Twitch emotes and branding for content creators. I don't see enough branding surrounding restaurants and what it actually takes to actually like do a really good looking restaurant, right? So honestly, I want to see another restaurant type of branding from you. And if not that, I would love to see like some type of hospitality branding to challenge you in that regard too.
I'm most likely going to make another restaurant.
You should. Absolutely. Because if you're able to take any of the pointers that I've made today and apply it to your next restaurant project, it's going to look even better. I want to know exactly how you thought of your process going through your next Behance project. That's my challenge to you for your next Behance. I want to be inside of your head and understand exactly how you did this. Why'd you choose this layout for the menu over another? Why did you choose these mock-ups over something different? What is the importance of home is where the heart is, right? I chose home is where the heart is as a phrase for the restaurant branding because it ties a lot of roots into the origin point of the restaurant. And I felt it to be important to highlight that for visitors coming into the restaurant.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good explanation. I mean, that's head ass because I didn't design this, but you could probably come up with something better. Behance is an opportunity to really elaborate on your projects. And I want to see you do that more because you're good at it. It's also an opportunity to sell yourself, right? This, look how elaborative I am when I design things and look how easy it is to understand why I make the decisions I do. I'm also kind of mad because my 4K monitor is actually changing the color. Because I have two monitors, right? So my other monitor is a 1080p, and I'm seeing the preview through the Discord sharing.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit different. The colors are a lot more red. I'm also wearing blue light glasses, but anyway. Yeah. Really fantastic work as always, Kai. I think just in terms of presentation, you already know what you need to do. I do also advise taking a look at some of your favorite layout design artists and asking yourself why they situated certain elements next to each other over different elements. By doing that, I think it's going to help you not only with your presentation skills, but the way in which you've also put together this menu, the way in which that you've elaborated on your texts. That pretty much covers the two aspects of your portfolio that you wanted me to cover. I really appreciate you spending the tokens to have me take a deep dive with you so I could block off some time on my calendar to really go through this. I hope that this has been proven to be helpful for you. The fact that you're spending the time that you are to have me go through this means a lot. And I appreciate the opportunity to review your stuff. What's your next project going to be?
Possibly going to be like kind of like McDonald's or a Starbucks, like a big business,
Mm-hmm.
but like with new branding, let's say.
Getting into that hospitality area with hotels could be a good direction, because oftentimes really big hotels host fancy restaurants within them. So you could do kind of a combination
Yeah,
there.
that's pretty true.
You could do like a hotel McDonald's with like a mock-up or composite with like the arches on top of the building. McDonald's somewhere in there. There's one of our Comet Plus members. She is doing something similar with fancifying the McDonald's brand. It's in one of the creative forums. I don't know if you saw that, but it's pretty cool. I like it. Where is it? Am I losing posts in here? There's no way. What in the world? I hope she didn't delete it. I really hope she didn't delete it. Oh, there it is. Okay, that was scary. So I've gotten so many posts in the creative forum, I lost track. Here. Maybe you two can collaborate on something. That would be cool.
That looks amazing.
Yeah. Maybe you two can collab. But I've gone ahead and added you there. But awesome. I look forward to seeing your next project, to be honest. Whether you do another, I think, 5,000 tokens, or just make a post in the Creative Corner forum, I'll be paying attention, as I do with everything in the server. So again, Kai, I really appreciate the time that you've spent here allowing me to review your stuff. And I look forward to seeing what more you can bring to the table. Those who are watching, before we end things off, I would love to give my thanks over to Transsandwich, who is a subscriber here within Designly for the Comet Plus for $10 a month. Getting a ton of perks, a little bit of clout, of course, for investing into the community so that we can, of course, give it back to provide more awesome resources for everyone, as well as Mako. Mako is a supporter of the server at the $2.99 a month. Just a little bit of a boost. It helps out staff a ton that you subscribe here in the server. Of course, we love it when people boost the server as well, but directly supporting staff so that we can give back to the community is, of course, a win-win situation. We want to give you more assets. We want to provide even more awesome events week over week. Come into the server, give us a try, enjoy the community, get some really awesome critique from a really loving community. And if you're looking to join, the join link is down in the description. But with that, we'll go ahead and end things off. Again, Kai, thank you so much for joining with me today. And we'll see you next time.